What is going on, A to Z Sports? We are live. Sam Phelan alongside Jack Gentry with a great show coming at you today. Got an interesting mock draft to talk about, and a mock draft scenario that I think creates a much bigger conversation about Tennessee Titans quarterback Will Levis, and gives the Titans a dilemma about their young quarterback that they would have to come up with some answers for. So Jack and I today, we're going to try and find those answers. We're going to try and figure out what the future of the Titans might look like at quarterback, and how the 2025 draft contributes to this conversation. It's going to be a great show. We took last week off because of the 4th of July. So welcome back into all of you there in the chat. And Jack Gentry, welcome into you. Tell the folks what to do this morning.
Yeah, hey, happy Monday, everybody. I know y'all are excited to be back. I'm excited to be back after a long week off. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. But we're back to talking ball, and I'm happy to be here to do it alongside Sam. While you guys are filing in, because I see a lot of y'all already in here, I know y'all are hungry to get to the show. We're going to get to it in just a second. But please, I remind you guys on the way in to like the show. Drop a thumbs up, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. It helps us grow. It helps us reach new audience members. That helps the show grow, and that's good for A to Z Sports. If you're watching on Facebook, sharing is caring. I encourage you to share the show into your Titans Facebook groups. Let's bring everybody we can in here. Let's take the temperature of the Titans fan base. Please share the show if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to tap that bell icon at the top of your screen and turn those notifications on. We're getting closer and closer to training camp, baby. And once we get there, the content machine will not stop until February, hopefully, for Titans fans, if the season can go that far. If you're watching on Twitch, don't forget to text that Twitch link around your Titans text groups. If you're already at work, you see somebody slacking in the cubicle next to you, send them the link. We'll wake them up. We'll talk a little Titans. Hopefully that fires them up on this Monday morning. I know everybody's probably a little slow today after the long weekend, but text that Twitch link around your Titans text groups. Let's bring everybody in here, whether you're getting ready for work right now or whether you're trying to kill the first hour at work. Wake up a little bit. Do it with A to Z Sports. Text that Twitch link around and let's get everybody in here. And finally, Sam, it's time to get the show on the road.
Yeah, let's do it officially here. Pistol Ramsey says he shared the show, and King VZ is back.
Good man.
While I get us in here officially, let's just let King VZ marinate, saying lock in, like the show. We back, ladies and gents. So let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Sam Phelan. He is Jack Gentry, and this is A to Z Sports, Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show tweeted out segment by segment on the Twitter X timeline. You can also check out the TikTok, Instagram, and Threads for more Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors this morning. They make it happen for us and help out all of like Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans, better coverage, better rates, better service. Learn more about a plan for you at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And the Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Schedule your appointment at boneandjointtn.org. So, Jack, this whole conversation today is starting from what some would say is way too early, from what some would say is somewhat irrelevant, and many of those people would be right. But I do think it creates a fun thought experiment, and that is the way too early mock draft released by ESPN. And ESPN's Matt Miller recently did a mock draft. Let me see if I can actually pull this up here so that we can get a visual for everybody at home. They did a mock draft predicting the order, and unlike some other mocks, they did not use reverse Super Bowl odds to determine their draft order. They actually ran a series of simulations for the 2024 NFL season to figure out the most likely outcome for every team and every team's record, made a mock draft order, made picks. Here's where Matt Miller had your Tennessee Titans picking 4th overall. And as you can see, taking Tennessee Vols edge rusher James Pierce Jr. Now, here's what Miller says. This is a prove-it season for quarterback Will Levis as a second-year starter, but the early returns were good enough that we can forget about quarterbacks at the top of the draft for now. Instead, the Titans could land my preseason number one overall player and an in-state prospect, a 6'5", 242-pound Pierce, of special quickness around the edge, had 9.5 sacks for Tennessee last season, flashed his all-around game with a 52-yard pick six as well, would be an instant boost opposite Harold Landry. So now, Jack, I think initially James Pierce Jr. for the Titans would be fantastic. I think it's a great addition. I think it's a position of need at edge rusher. And you can look and say, checks all the boxes. But really, to me, the conversation here is the fact that the Titans are picking 4th overall, and Matt Miller does not have them selecting a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah, very interesting. You know, I think it'd be a shock to me if the Titans wound up in the top 5 because, you know, that would mean they probably didn't get to 5 wins on the season. And with the way that the Titans spent this offseason and, you know, the momentum that there is in Tennessee right now, I mean, even after the last 2 seasons, I feel like Titans fans are really excited heading into this year because the talent that they brought in. So, look, if the Titans pick in the top 5 next year, something terrible must have happened. And the schedule's not that kind. For a 4th place schedule, you know, the Titans have a pretty tough schedule out there. I mean, just with some of the draws that they had across the AFC. But look, James Pierce, he's a good player, right? He was amongst the leaders in the SEC sacks last season, nearly put up 10 sacks. I'm a little concerned for a couple of reasons with him going that early to the Titans. Would I be okay with the Titans drafting an edge rusher next year? Sure. Would I be okay with the Titans drafting an edge rusher after a 4-win season? That likely means Will Levis probably came up a little bit short. That I'm not so sure of. And, you know, the quarterback class next year might be a little down compared to the one this year. But look, I disagree with Matt Miller that the Titans are going to be picking in the top 5. I disagree with the direction positionally that Matt Miller has the Titans going in. So for me, yeah, this raises a few eyebrows, and I'm not so sure that I take this all that seriously. And look, I don't take many of these way too early mock drafts too seriously, sure, right? Because we still have, you know, 6, 7, 8 months, you know, from decision time. So I'm not buying into this idea that the Titans will take James Pierce at number 4 overall, much less they will be picking at 4 overall.
Yeah, Borg says Pierce will be 1st overall, which is certainly a possibility. And I mean, you saw Matt Miller say that he had Pierce as his number 1 overall player, the in-state prospect there. So that is certainly a possibility. But in this scenario, Miller ended up projecting 2 quarterbacks to go at the top of the draft, which is relatively common. I think we can all say is that there's an overall best prospect available. And then usually the need for quarterbacks overwhelms teams. Another interesting note, though, Jack, about this sort of scenario is he had the New England Patriots and the Carolina Panthers picking at 1 and 2, 2 teams who do not need a quarterback or just recently used a top draft pick on a quarterback. And so Miller has the Patriots and Panthers trading out of the first 2 picks in the draft to the Giants and Raiders, who select Georgia's Carson Beck and Colorado's Shedeur Sanders, 2 quarterbacks at the top of the draft. Other QBs that go in the first round in this mock draft, as I scroll it, we have Quinn Ewers of Texas. We have Riley Leonard of Duke. We have Connor Wegman out of Texas A&M. Hope I didn't butcher that name too bad. All first-round quarterbacks. And so you're looking at 5 overall quarterback prospects landing in the first round, 2 teams trading ahead of the Titans to take their quarterback, and the Titans sitting there on their hands at 4th overall taking an edge rusher. And really the problem that I have that I agree with you on is Miller kind of contradicts himself just in the words he uses alone, where he starts it off by saying this is a prove-it season for quarterback Will Levis as a second-year starter. And early returns were good enough that we can forget about quarterbacks at the top of the draft for now. And Jack, what I find funny is that Pistol Ramsey points out, like, you're talking the Titans maybe go 3-14 or 4-13 in this scenario to be picking 4th overall. Well, I think your concerns for quarterback might be very different if you play a full season with Will Levis under center and are that bad. And that's why I want to kind of have this conversation. I think it sparks the overall conversation about Will Levis as the Titans' future and where their position in the draft could potentially impact how they see this thing going. So I will go ahead and ask the question before I get into our first, message from our ad reads here this morning. But I just want to ask everybody, how much does the win-loss record impact the Titans' decision on Will Levis after the 2024 season? How much does the win-loss record impact the Titans' decision on Will Levis and what they do at quarterback moving forward after the 2024 season? While the chat goes ahead and answers that, I'm going to tell everybody about the Bone and Joint Institute. The Bone and Joint Institute is the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who to trust, and you don't want to fumble on your recovery. Go to our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute, located out in Franklin, with a state-of-the-art rehab facility for all of your needs. Everything's under one roof: clinic, rehab, imaging, surgery, testing. It's all there. No driving all over Middle Tennessee to your different appointments. Schedule your appointment with them at boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM.com, the king of sports books. We're getting close to the dog days, people, but the MLB All-Star Game's coming up, Home Run Derby, the Euros, Copa America, a ton of stuff still going on right now. So if you're looking to get some skin in the game, you're looking to sign up with a new sports book, do it with BetMGM and use our bonus code A to Z Sports. You'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Kind of a boring time to be a sports fan. Spice things up. Download BetMGM, switch sports books. Download that BetMGM app, use our bonus code A to Z Sports, and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, Jack. So we asked the question in the chat. We asked, how much does the Titans' win-loss record in 2024 affect their decision on Will Levis after the season as their quarterback? I'll send you to the chat and see what the people are saying.
Nick Van Tier starts us off on YouTube. He says a lot. Eric Castillo on the other side of the spectrum with none. Ira Hoshi splitting down the middle with a little. We got a lot. With this roster, it means a lot. A lot, a little, some, a lot, very little, a lot. More than a little, but not a lot. A little. Only saying that because there's a possibility that this defense just gives up a lot of points. A lot, a little. So really, I mean, it's pretty split between a lot and a little. I would say a lot probably has the edge here. We see Rebecca and Pistol Ramsey chiming in with a lot. A lot from Jeffrey, a little from Scott Weaver. Depends on how he plays. More than a little, a lot. It's the number one thing from Hunter Sweat. Okay.
This is why I love this conversation, man. Pistol Ram said this is a hard question, and I agree. I think this is really fun because, there's variables here, right? The defense, different things, but overall, I think everybody goes into the season being like, Will Levis has to show us something, but we haven't really talked about exactly what that is and what the Titans as a team need to be to feel confident that this is your guy. So, Jack, does it surprise you that this is where the chat is at?
No, it doesn't surprise me. And I think Andre kind of hinted at it because of what the Titans did in free agency, the L'Jarius Sneed trade, how much the Titans have spent, time and effort in upgrading this, and money, obviously, in upgrading this roster. The Titans should take a step forward this season, even though we're in a new era with Brian Callahan, even though we've got 2 or 3 new coordinators, offensive, defensive, and special teams. You got a first-year starter at quarterback. Tony Pollard's brought in. You got kind of a reshaped offensive line. That defense has been upgraded, especially in the secondary, which was the weak spot last year. So you expect them to take a leap forward. But I forget who, I think it was JR. Somewhere in between a little and a lot's kind of where I'm going here. Because in today's day and age, numbers matter and analytics are at the forefront of the conversation. But the eye test also matters here. How does Will Levis play if they lose these games? Because, the sports books have the Titans win total around 5.5. And if the Titans win 6 games, that doesn't necessarily mean Will Levis blew 11 of them, right? Being the first in his first year as a full-time starter, there's going to be growing pains, especially in a new system. We acknowledge that. We acknowledge that it's not going to look pretty early, especially with a guy, with turnover that's a little turnover prone at times. Some of the mistakes that he's going to make early in the season, you hope will be ironed out in the back half. So for me, it's in between a little and a lot, and I'm going to get away with that because I think that if Will Levis if the Titans go 5-10, but Will Levis puts up a Trevor Lawrence-like season, not great, but definitely not good. 20 or maybe a little over good. I don't know, 24 touchdowns, 14 picks, somewhere around there. But you can kind of see him take command. You can kind of see him feel confident, build a rapport with some of these receivers that he's working with. I think that that's a step forward. And right now, you just need Levis to take a step forward. You don't need him to make the playoffs. You don't need Will Levis to win a playoff game. You don't need him to throw 30 touchdowns, 4,000 yards, and 10 picks. You need a step forward. And I think a 24, 25 touchdown season, taking care of the football, beating some teams in the division, I think that the eye test matters a whole lot more than just a certain number of wins for Will Levis. But that being said, if the Titans win 4 games this year, Will Levis either got hurt or something went terribly wrong. And you do have to reevaluate that situation and maybe have a discussion about finding a new quarterback after this season. So I think the 4 wins is probably when you start having that conversation. I think if he gets to 5 and 6, 7, looks kind of good in that range. It's going to be underwhelming.
That big of a difference, though. Like four wins is need a new quarterback. If 4 wins, we need a new quarterback. 5 wins is no. I just think that that's a funny, very thin line. I mean, I like these comments from Darren. He says, "Fun question."
But that's what I'm saying. It's not just a win number. It's not like a certain amount of wins. You got to factor in the eye test and kind of how he looks along.
I mean, obviously, and this is what gets pointed out here is that and Andre says it's a nuanced question, which is absolutely true, right? The identity hasn't been set yet. New coaches, new players, questionable defense. You like a lot of the things that they did on defense, but we don't know what this defense looks like under Denard Wilson. And so watching Levis and how he looks is probably always in professional sports going to be more important than strictly the win column when you watch a guy play. And he says it's not about winning or losing right now. It's how we win or lose.
Right.
Two things I want to throw out here. Number one is to the people in the chat. Not saying I disagree with you. I'm just curious if you think it's a lot or you think it is the most important thing. My question to you would be, what is the number then? What is the number? If you feel win-loss record for the Titans is the most important thing for them keeping Will Levis as the quarterback or not, where do they need to get for you to feel like they should keep him? Because, what is it? Darren says 6. We seeing a lot of 6 in the chat right now. Then we get Skip says 10. Devin says 9. But this is the spectrum that I think is interesting here of what is the number that the Titans would have to win for you to say that's a good enough win-loss total for me to feel good about Will Levis. Jack, I will kind of push back a little, and I will say a lot. I think this matters a lot, and I might say it is the most important thing. I'm not going to sit here and pretend there's no nuance to this. Obviously, there's a world where Will Levis looks awesome and the defense gives up 33 points a game and you lose a lot of games. I think that's a bit of an extreme scenario. But it matters a lot for 2 reasons. The first reason is going to be simple positioning. And if the Titans win 6 or 7 games, they're not going to be well positioned to get a top quarterback in the next draft, where I don't think it makes a ton of sense for them to move up 15 spots and trade up for Shedeur Sanders, right? I don't think that checks out. But I think if you lose a lot of games and you're picking in the top 5 and the opportunity is kind of in your lap to go and grab a Quinn Ewers or go and grab one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, I think it changes your approach pretty significantly. You can look at a lot of teams in recent history who have maybe been towing the line on whether or not they move on from their quarterback. And the fact that they're well positioned to grow and draft one is ultimately what, makes them make that move. I'll remind people, Will Levis does not have a fifth year of contract control, does not have a fifth year option. He's got 4 years under his rookie contract. So after 2024, the Titans are one season away from needing to pay Will Levis. And if you can, in many ways, reset that clock already, and you have a guy that's in front of you that you feel good about, and you're still unsure about Levis after 2 years, maybe you take that opportunity where you don't if you're drafting 12th, 11th, 13th, whatever it is. So I think it matters significantly for that reason. And then the second reason is because eventually you just have to start winning games and you have to up the standard. And, towing this line about, is this the guy? Is this not the guy? Is not something I think NFL teams practice all that often or want to practice moving forward. I went back, Jack, and since the 2017 NFL draft, I took the last 8 draft classes. Non-first round pick quarterbacks still starting in the league. There are 2. Can you name them?
Non-first rounder starting in the league?
Since 2017, quarterbacks not drafted in the first round that are still starting in the league.
Brock Purdy's one of them.
Brock Purdy's one of them.
Jordan Love was a first rounder. I'm trying to think of who that second guy would be.
It is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, second round pick. 2 guys who have been to a Super Bowl in their career. And so you look at the list, non-first round picks. Chad Kelly, Brad Kaya, Nathan Peterman, Josh Dobbs, CJ Beathard, Davis Webb, Deshaun Kaiser, Logan Woodside, Alex McGuff, Danny Etling, Tanner Lee, Luke Falk, Mike White, Kyle Lauletta, Mason Rudolph, Trace McSorley, Gardner Minshew, Clayton Thorson, Easton Stick, Jarrett Stidham, Ryan Finley, Will Greer, Drew Lock, Nate Stanley, Tommy Stevens, Ben DiNucci, Cole McDonald, Jake Lutton, Jake Fromm, James Morgan, Jacob Eason, Jalen Hurts, Sam Ellinger, Ian Book, Davis Mills, Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask, Brock Purdy, Skylar Thompson, Chris Oladokan, Sam Howell, Bailey Zappi, Matt Corral, Malik Willis, Desmond Ritter, Max Duggan, Tanner McKee, Jaron Hill, Sean Clifford, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Clayton Tune, Aiden O'Connell, Stetson Bennett, Jay Kaner, Hendon Hooker, all the guys drafted this year.
Gosh, I need to Febreze my room after listening.
Dak was in 2016. He is the next one that you go back. But if you look at what the league does now, the leash on non-first round pick quarterbacks is very small. You get guys like Sam Howell and Davis Mills who show you flashes of being good, but are inconsistent here and there. Their teams don't win a ton of games, and then they're in a position to draft a quarterback, and they replace them. And Brian Callahan did not draft Will Levis. Brian Callahan is a quarterback guy. I think if the Titans do not take that step as a team, look like they're knocking on the doorstep of winning playoff games, it might be the what makes most sense for the organization to look in the mirror and say, we need to find the next guy. Now, I don't really know what that looks like. I mean, I think 7-10, 8-9, 9-8, then it comes down to what does Levis look like, right?
I think if you're getting to there, Levis has performed well enough to.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think this defense could carry this team to 7 wins. I think this running game could carry this team to 7 wins. I think the team has improved in a lot of areas where Will Levis does not need to be I will remind you, as horrible as the team was last year, as bad as the quarterback play was last year, as they had one of the worst secondaries in football and injured Ryan Tannehill starting half the time, they won 6 games. The Titans won 6 games last year, and I think they are improved in just about every area in their roster. So if you're telling me that making all these aggressive moves, getting younger and physical and more athletic with a new coaching staff made you get worse, I think, I would just look, and this is not me saying I'm trending out on Levis, as Scott says, because I believe they will be better. I believe Levis will answer the bell. But I'm just asking the question, what if they don't? And if it is 4-13, if it is 5-12, even if it is 6-11, and they don't really take that jump, where does that leave you looking into 2025? Sorry, that was a lot.
Yeah, no, you're good. You gave me a chance to catch my breath. But yeah, look, picking in the top 5 obviously it makes your decision a lot tougher because you have access to some of the best quarterbacks coming out of college. Where I'll push back on if you're not a first round quarterback, teams move on from you quickly. I think the majority of the guys that you kind of listed were more of day 3.
Well, I was
players.
going in reverse order so I was starting in 7th round of every year and
Yeah.
there's a lot of guys drafted in 6th and 7th round, but
Yeah,
even in
but
2nd round, you look
Levis
at the
was the
second,
first
third
pick
round.
in the 2nd round. He's a glorified first rounder without the 5th year option,
Sure.
right? I mean, so he's a little bit more highly regarded than just about every quarterback you list.
For sure.
First of all, I obviously think Will Levis is going to take a step this year. I think that Brian Callahan's going to help him because what you saw him do with Jake Browning last year and what you saw the Bengals consistently do with the bad offensive line, that gives you some hope with what Callahan can do with Will Levis. And, while the Titans did get better, there's still a lot of question marks, especially on that offensive line. You drafted J.C. Latham, sure, but he hasn't played left tackle since high school. He's still a rookie. Peter Skoronski's a second-year player who missed time in his rookie season. Cushenberry's a great addition. But the right side is still, you have no idea who's going to start at right guard and right tackle right now. So I understand you want to improve, and I understand you should improve with the moves that you made this offseason. But I think that it would be a disservice to your staff who is all bought in on Will Levis, who all believes that Will Levis can take a big step this year, to move on from him so quickly, unless he has a disastrous season where he throws more picks than touchdowns. I just think that wouldn't be really giving yourself a fair shot at evaluating him. Obviously, the eye test matters, right? In some things you can't quantify. Like if Will Levis consistently fumbles a lead at halftime, like the Titans did last year, under Brian Callahan, then you have some problems to work out. But I just think that Will Levis is in such good hands that the Titans will not be picking in the top 5 next year unless terrible injuries take over again. So, look, I understand that this question is kind of the hypothetical. Well, what if everything goes wrong? Well, then if everything goes wrong, you think about changing direction, right? Because with the players that the Titans signed, a lot of them are on 2-year deals. And you really want to hit this window. You want to come out the other side, contending for the playoffs, if not already making the playoffs by the end of next season. So while I don't think the goal is playoffs this year, I think that you have to make a significant jump towards that goal and end up, because next season we're going to be talking about the playoffs as kind of the expectation. So get closer to that goal this year, whether it's 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins. You want an answer out of Will Levis more than anything, obviously. But, man, it would really suck to have to restart that clock, go find another quarterback in next year's class. And I don't believe in that next year's class, by the way.
Yeah.
It would really be tough to have Will Levis kind of fall flat on his face with the help that the Titans brought in around him. But at the end of the day, like 8, 9 wins, it's going to be tough to come by. It's going to be tough to come by. The AFC South's gotten a whole lot better. And Will Levis's offensive line, Bill Callahan's awesome. He's going to help out. But what does that mean for the O-line? Are they going to be top 20? Because that would be a big jump for that group, considering where they finished last season. There's a lot of variables in this discussion, and I think that if Will Levis can even just have an okay season, then you roll with him into next year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with your idea that like it's a disservice to this coaching staff because I do believe like this evaluation goes on constantly. And I would remind you again that like Will Levis is not Brian Callahan's guy. He is not his quarterback. And so the Titans can come into this season feeling good about Will Levis, potentially feeling like there's a lot to work with here. But I think more so than most teams, the fact that your head coach and your entire offensive staff did not draft this quarterback makes you more likely to move on from this quarterback should you be in a position to draft a guy. I also think, this class, it's easy to look ahead at this class and say, this is not a good class. But we have seen in the past, like a guy like Joe Burrow assert himself in one season and basically make it very clear that there is a really talented quarterback. So it is hard to assess the strength of a draft class, specifically at quarterback this early.
But if Carson Beck's going number one, and I understand he might be a good pro, but that's not a class that gets me excited.
Yeah. Well, overall, I would say for me, the number one thing I think I'm afraid of for the Titans, and I think most sports fans should be afraid of their team doing, is punting the ball too far, wanting to make sure, and missing windows of opportunity. I don't necessarily know if one more year, like, I don't know if you can wait another year to find out for sure about Will Levis. Like, because I guess you're trying to get answers. And I agree with you. Answers are more important than the win-loss record. I think you should come away from this season feeling confident about Levis one way or another, and you can work with that. At least you have direction and you have an answer on your quarterback. Where I'm afraid is this world that we're kind of talking about here, where Levis looks okay and you win 5 or 6 games, and you can't really tell if you improved or not, or if this is the guy or not, and then you pass up on these opportunities to go get a quarterback by just saying, you know what, we'll give him another year to prove himself. And then DeAndre Hopkins is, by the way, not under contract for the next year. Calvin Ridley is a year older, and he's already on the wrong side at 30. You are beginning to waste away some of these years with this core talent that you've assembled, where the key that the Titans need to do is build a strong competitive roster like they have and figure out the guy under center as quickly as possible. And because of that, because of how aggressive they've been this offseason, because I think you can look up and down this roster and say every position group besides maybe safety is improved from where it was at this time last year.
Linebacker.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Probably linebacker and safety are the two, but they're significantly better at cornerback. They're probably better and deeper on the defensive line, especially on the interior. The offensive line is night and day. Better receivers, a more dynamic run game. You would hope the quarterback plays better. And if you can say that, and then you lose more games, and it is a lot of, the same problems, I have to look at changing the quarterback.
Yeah. If you're picking in the top 5, you absolutely have to have that conversation just because of who will be available and what obviously it took to be picking in the top 5. And that is if Will Levis plays 17 games, doesn't get hurt.
And I agree with that. I think, that's where I think the win-loss matters. The win-loss record matters a lot, because the difference to me, and the Titans are picking 11th and 12th, they're not in a position to go get a quarterback. And I don't think you take, whoever.
And that's probably 7 win range.
I don't think you pull the trigger on Riley Leonard just because, right? But I think if you lose 13 games, 12 games, and you're sitting here in the top 10 and you have a chance at one of the top guys, that's where I think your mentality as an organization has to shift for the opportunity in front of you. So,
and it has to be so bad to move on from Will Levis this year, in my opinion, because of the holes that you still have on this roster. It's going to take a couple seasons for Rand Carthon to put this puzzle back together. But right now, they've done a good job this offseason, obviously spent a lot of money, but there's still cracks. So if you're picking 10th, 11th, 12th next year, find a receiver, man. And even if you're picking in the top 5, don't draft an edge rusher who weighs 5 more pounds than Chigakonkwo, right?
Yeah, but
there's other holes that need to be filled here. And I really think that Will Levis.
I would disagree. I think edge is a hole that needs to be filled here.
Sure. I guess I disagree with the route. But I just think that Will Levis. This is a tough conversation to have because it implies that the Titans will have a bad year next year, and I think the Titans are a much improved roster. That really only leaves me with this: is if the Titans pick in the top 5 next year, something terribly wrong has gone on with Will Levis, which is probably a season-ending injury early in the year, or mass casualties spread throughout this roster on defense, just injury issues that we saw in the 2021 season. So yeah, I think that's the only way the Titans pick in the top 5, because that's a 4-win ceiling to really be picking that high. And obviously, if you're there, you have the conversation. But I think that this conversation won't matter, and I do think that the Titans will improve next season. So that's my thoughts.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I don't think top 5 is realistic, but this is not reverse mock drafts. This is simulations that ESPN has run here when this is the outcome. So that's what they believe, like, in what the computers and all the results, whatever. And I think they're probably wrong. I think they're probably selling the Titans a little bit short, but just kind of curious where people stand. I will say, wait for Arch Manning. I love Arch Manning. Hey, I love Arch Manning too. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback and probably a good NFL quarterback. But the idea of waiting for one particular guy is a little bit foolish because, you might not get that pick. You might not get that luxury. Could get number 2 overall. And then you got problems. Got our second question coming up for you because we talked about the win-loss record and how the win-loss record could potentially affect the Titans' decision on Will Levis. But what does Will Levis have to do to retain quarterback duties in 2025? This can be one word, can be a sentence, can be as simple as possible. But what does Will Levis have to do as a player? Maybe you do say it's win a certain number of games, but what would you say Will Levis has to do to retain quarterback duties in 2025? While you guys in the chat go ahead and answer that question, I'm going to tell everybody about our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans, better rates, better coverage at fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau Health Plans has been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years. And while a lot has changed in Tennessee over the years, some things just stay the same. One of those things is Farm Bureau Health Plans because they've always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. You can plan on Farm Bureau Health Plans for health, dental, and vision. So for better rates, better coverage, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200 plus locations across the state. That's fbhp.com/ATOZ.
BetMGM.com. If you're looking to switch sportsbooks or you're looking to get some skin in the game in the first place, download BetMGM and use our bonus code A2Z Sports. When you sign up, new users, you will be able to cash in on an offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. So download BetMGM, get some skin in the game. These soccer tournaments are coming to a close here. Some really good games coming up here this week. Get some skin in the game with BetMGM. Use our bonus code A2Z Sports and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, Jack, what is the chat saying here? Asking them, hey, maybe we'll put the record aside. Maybe the record does matter, but what does Will Levis have to do in 2024 to be the guy in 2025?
Mario Williams says 95 quarterback rating. Stay healthy from Rooney.
Hang on. I love it. Mario, I love it. Let me set my coffee down. Coming in here with QBR is just the level of respect I have for just QBR is oh man, that's so good. That's amazing.
Rooney Glover says stay healthy. And I don't even know if I agree with that because if Will Levis gets hurt early, then you still got to figure it out next year, right?
I'll kind of get there. I agree with Rooney.
Simply improve from Danny. We've got game management, just win, baby. Playoffs, stay healthy. Troy says you can't go out and spend all that money to win 7 or 8 games. We'll see. A lot of turnover this year, and growing pains are a real thing in the NFL. Stay healthy. Do what he's been doing. Don't lead the league in interceptions. Not make stupid decisions. Win games. Improve accuracy and decision-making. Show that, and I'm sold. Good comment from Darren. We got slide. Keep the turnovers to a minimum. Treat your body right. If you're a franchise quarterback, you got to start playing like one, taking care of yourself because the Titans are better with you on the field than off of it. Show marked improvement in decision-making and accuracy. Be available. Protect the football and win games. Play. Inspire hope. Part of the Dennis system here. We've got Levis has to pass the eye test for the season. Be the guy. I know it's vague, but I don't feel like going into details. And there are a lot of details when you're talking about a decision on Will Levis after this season. Be better than our QB play from last year, which should give our team more wins. Like those two things feel correlated. Let's see. Pass the eye test, throw touchdowns, stay healthy, and show that he can make his wide receivers better. Processing and decision-making. So I'm going to use a word that I haven't seen in the chat yet, but a lot of these people are kind of alluding at this word. I think that Will Levis has to show you that he's trustworthy. You can trust Will Levis at any point in the game, in any situation, to not make that hero throw, Don't be the hero. And I think that this is where Callahan's going to come in and help a lot because, Jake Browning led the NFL in completion percentage when he took over last year for the Bengals. Will Levis struggled in that department last year. And a lot of that was because Will Levis, at times, it felt like he had to make the game-winning play all by himself because he knew that the defense couldn't couldn't really hold a lead. He knew that his offense wasn't up to snuff, and the offensive line was going to crumble at any point in time. So he'd have those screw it, D-hop down there somewhere throws that would result in a turnover or at least be a turnover-worthy play.
Yeah.
Because he had a lot of interceptions that were dropped last year.
Yeah. Keep going. Sorry, I'll get
I was just going to say, the coaching staff has to trust him to go out there and make winning plays, right? To not go for the 60-yard touchdown pass in the third quarter just because the other team scored and is now up 10, right? Figure out a way. Don't try and score 10 points with one throw. And becoming trustworthy, building a rapport with some of these veteran receivers, showing that you and Calvin Ridley can really be one of the NFL's best combinations here moving forward would be a big step for me. But at the end of the day, you're still talking about a guy who's going to be in his first year starting as a full-time quarterback. You're talking about a guy who's probably got some voices in his head from last season and how quickly he had to get rid of the football before he got flattened by defensive linemen. So there's going to be some things to work out, and it's going to take a few weeks to get there. But I think consistent improvement, an improvement in completion percentage, and also kind of not making these kind of boneheaded impulse decisions would go a long way for me in deciding that Will Levis is the guy for the future in 2024.
Yeah. No, I love the word that you used, trustworthy. I was kind of going to say consistent as my word, but I actually like trustworthy a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's going to be ups and downs, right?
Well, and to me, trustworthy in every aspect. I think he needs to be healthy. I do. I think if Will Levis gets hurt again and is dealing with injuries all year, you've now seen a guy who was injured in college, who's been injured in both years of his NFL career, who hasn't shown that he can consistently be on the field and be trustworthy. And if you're in a spot to draft a quarterback and Will Levis got hurt again, do you feel confident he's the guy? I don't know if you do, because what we say, you need to get answers on Will Levis. And if he's hurt, you're not getting answers. So that would be a problem for me. I think, he has to be trustworthy in taking care of the football more importantly than anything. I think the only thing that, in my opinion, would be Will Levis's downfall in the NFL is the fact that he can't stop turning the damn ball over. And he led the league in turnover-worthy plays. He was right up there with Mac Jones and Desmond Ridder. Turnover-worthy plays in 2023. That's bad company to be in, and two guys who are not the guy and were replaced because they were not the guy. So for me, Will has to show that outside of I don't think all of his turnover-worthy plays are him just saying, screw it, D-hop down there somewhere. I think, he tries to force things. Sometimes he doesn't read the defense perfectly, and he thinks he's a little bit more capable with his arm than he actually is. So finding a healthy balance here where he's not creating turnover-worthy plays and he's consistently taking care of the football and on the field, that is the trustworthy, reliable version of Will Levis that I want to see in 2024 to say he is the guy in 2025. And yeah, the offensive line didn't help with turnovers. Absolutely. But that is ultimately I don't want to sit here next offseason and be talking about Will Levis, who showed all these great flashes, but also kept turning the ball over. And, if there is that, if he is that turnover machine, which you can be, and you can still be awesome. And there's a reason that coming out of college, what did I say, Jack, on our draft show was the ceiling comp for Will Levis? You remember?
Oh,
Physically,
I don't remember.
If you look at the physical size, if you look at the sneaky speed, if you look at the college and kind of the similar college where they didn't really have a huge competitive roster around them, Will Levis reminded me of Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. And what would we say about Josh Allen through the first year or two of his career? Inaccuracy, turnover-worthy plays. Even now, we say turnover-worthy plays. But what Josh Allen does is that the great moments far, far, far outweigh his horrible moments. And so you either have to limit those turnover numbers or you have to do a whole lot of consistent, trustworthy, flashing moments to be great. And I want to say this because I think I've never heard this before, never heard this phrase before. And I think it's very, very good. So shout out to Brandon Simmons. Be the reason, not the excuse. And that's the thing with Josh Allen.
A bar.
That's the thing with Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen does those turnover-worthy plays. And yet you talk about Josh Allen and you say he's the reason the Buffalo Bills won this game. He's the reason they're still competitive. He's
right.
not you don't talk about the Bills and say, well, they would have won the Super Bowl if not for Josh Allen. Like, he shows up in the big moments.
Couple comments I want to get to here. We'll start with Randy on Facebook. He says, Levis started feeling himself after that first game where he threw 4 touchdowns against the Falcons in those sweet Oilers uniforms. And then he got humbled after, right? I think that was a necessary experience for Will Levis down the stretch, knowing that, hey, this league isn't as easy as it was against the Falcons. Not every team's the Atlanta Falcons, right? So, having gone through that experience, having then struggled afterwards, I think was a humbling experience from him and something that he can absolutely learn from. Another thing that I want to get to from Ken, his clock was being sped up by a horrible left tackle that didn't help. 29 sacks from the left tackle's position alone last year. No matter who was out there, they stunk. And it's kind of like a point guard being judged when his team's got a 15-second shot clock, right? Like, a lot of the decisions he's going to make are rushed and are forced and are not some of the decisions he would make with more time at his disposal. So I think this season, with a little bit more time under, an improved offensive line, we're going to start to see what Will Levis can do and start seeing him maybe process defenses better.
Yeah, I want to get to this comment too, because Levis was the reason for the Dolphins win, the reason for the Falcons win. Is there a game we can point to him being the excuse? Listen, again, I'm a Will Levis guy. I was the first guy, kind of like, I just go watch the draft show. That's all I'll say. Go watch the 2023 draft show. A lot of people out on Will Levis. Your boy was in on Will Levis. But I will say, there is some, I think, misconception about this Dolphins game because of the way it ended. Defense Will Levis threw a pick 6 to a D lineman from his own end zone and was awful in the first half. He was the reason for them losing in the first half and the excuse in a lot of ways. So
that's kind of the Josh Allen experience, right?
No,
there's going to be some games where he gives it away
at the same time and you overcome it at the end and all is good. But let's also look at that Miami game and say Will Levis honestly and the Titans honestly were good for 4.5 minutes of that game. And they put up 15 unanswered. And it was an awesome 4.5 minutes. It was epic. I watched it back the other day. But it
was kind of a coming out party for Levis, but the defense absolutely deserves major props for keeping them in that game and then closing it out after the Dolphins got the ball back.
Yeah. So do want to just, set the record straight there that was a great game and a great second half, but that game is kind of a microcosm of the Will Levis experience so far, which was you're like, holy crap, 2 touchdowns by the Titans in 4 minutes. This is awesome. We can get down the field like that. And that's what you want out of your quarterback. And then you also just make some dumb decisions that take you out of the football game early on. And you're like, what are we doing here, man? Just don't make that big of a mistake.
And I think that's part of why Titans fans have a lot of optimism surrounding Will Levis. Because if you can just smooth out some of the bumps, right, and kind of get more of the good Levis than the bad Levis, then the ceiling for your team is just so much higher. And I think that Callahan, man, I really do believe that Callahan is the perfect coach to help smooth him out in this process. I think that, he's going to kind of tie Levis's hands behind his back and say, look, hey, you got to take what the defense gives you. And Callahan's going to do a good job of scheming guys open. They've got guys who can now get open, which is a great thing that they did not have last year. And Will Levis is going to take a step forward. I truly believe that.
Yeah. And I mean, then it's Brian Callahan's job to sort of slow down that clock that you mentioned. I think, maybe Will Levis does have this hardwired, got to play hero ball, got to go, got to make this throw, got go mentality. And Brian Callahan now needs to work with him over this offseason and into this season and just get him to, hey, chill. Hey, you've got an extra second here. Hey, you have Calvin Ridley open here. Hey, we've given you 2 running backs that are good safety checkdowns. You'd hey, whip one at Tony Pollard's belly. He'll fall forward for 3. Just do that. We can work with 3. We can't work with -8 or an interception. And so, that's Brian Callahan's job. It's part of the reason the Titans' approach to the offseason included the players that they did. Guys like Calvin Ridley who get open in short spaces, guys like Tyler Boyd who don't get open in short spaces against man coverage, but guys who can find pockets of a defense against zone coverage and just be available for Levis at all times to give him options. But it is because of all of those reasons, because of those additions to the roster, and because of this head coach, that he needs to show that he's not Mr. Panic up here. Mm-hmm. That if you have the right coach, you have the offensive coach and play caller that worked with Joe Burrow and made success out of
Jake Browning.
If you have that guy in your corner, you have all these weapons, and you have an improved offensive line, you can't be Mr. Freak Out, turn the ball over all the time.
And my last point on this, and it's an angle that I haven't seen anybody bring up in the chat here, is a lot of the times last year, due to the Titans' conservative play calling on second downs, they put Will Levis in a position to where he had to make big plays on third down. And if Brian Callahan, if they throw more on first down, if they do their homework early, that's going to set Levis up for easier third down decisions and easier throws to make. And that's going to help cut down on some of the turnover-worthy plays. So I just think that the Titans' philosophy in play calling and passing earlier in downs is going to help Levis a whole lot more than it did where they kind of ran past last year more often than not.
Yeah. We don't have to get too deep in this, but I do want to kind of answer John's question here. John says, if stats are the measuring stick, at which point do you not make the move and not look like the Cowboys and Dak? Stats in theory, he means. And I will just say, like, my personal philosophy on this, I don't want to speak for Jack, but my thoughts on this as a whole, and I've kind of been pretty vocal about this. I think the league and NFL fans and NFL coaches and just football in general is far too quick to criticize certain quarterbacks and believe that you can't win with somebody. I think just because, like, the Cowboys make the playoffs pretty consistently, they don't win a ton of playoff games, but Dak puts up big numbers and is a really, really strong quarterback. I think Dak Prescott, if Will Levis is Dak Prescott, I think Titans fans should be over the moon. If Will Levis window. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if Will Levis, and I saw comments earlier being like, if Will Levis is Josh Allen as a ceiling, that's a problem. Like, I think Josh Allen's the second best quarterback in the NFL. Like, you
have a window.
And you have to, I don't think the expectation should be that Will Levis needs to be a top 5 quarterback. I think if he's a top 12, top 10 quarterback, if he's consistently solid, you can win with that. Not everybody is Patrick Mahomes. You're not sitting around chasing Patrick Mahomes 24/7. That's stupid. You're never going to find that guy. So you have to find a guy who's just consistently good. And I think Dak Prescott and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and, there's a handful of guys that fall into this camp that are not the best of the best, but they are consistently very solid. And that's what the Titans need to be hoping for out of Will Levis, because you have a window. So
Flacco, or Lou Man brings up Flacco, Foles, Rams, Jared Goff. Who am I leaving out here? Brock Purdy. None of those guys were considered top 5
been to the Super Bowl or whatever. Exactly. Yeah, like doing all this stuff. So, like, sure, hey, maybe Dak can't win in the playoffs. Like, again, if Will Levis is Dak Prescott, by the way, Dak Prescott, best quarterback in Titans franchise history. If he was a Titan, he'd be the best quarterback in franchise history. I'm sorry. He is.
Steve McNair won too much in the playoffs for that.
Okay. Did he?
MVP. Got to a Super Bowl. Yeah.
We don't need to have the McNair conversation. I don't want to get disrespectful.
I'm just saying,
I don't think he deserved his MVP, but anyways, but that is ultimately what you're talking about here, is a guy who is Dak Prescott year over year is a top 10 quarterback in the league. So, if you have a guy who's the top 10 quarterback in the league for a decade, that's way more longevity than a guy like McNair had. Okay, Warren Moon, yeah, but Titans franchise.
Titans, yeah, Titans. We're talking more Titans, yeah.
Oilers, yeah, way different game. But I mean, that's ultimately what I think you're looking for here, is a 10 to 12-year starter, consistently good.
Yeah, we got off the rails a little comparing Dak Prescott to McNair, but I do think that the point is well received. Look, top 12 quarterback, that gets you a Super Bowl window, especially with an aggressive GM like Rand Carthon's proven to be. He's going to go out and make the right moves to get this team as close to winning as they possibly can. We saw that this year. They're coming off. They have 13 wins the last 2 seasons. Rand Carthon spins just about everything they got this year to get better, to get them closer to making the playoffs again. And I think that his aggressiveness will also shine through when they eventually take that step to, getting back in the mix for the AFC South crown, getting back in the mix for a playoff spot. So I think that that's what you have to look forward to. And if Will Levis can turn into a top 12 quarterback, Titans fans, I mean, we're going to get back to playoff football here before too long.
Yeah. Chat's cracking me up today. Look, I knew, hey, I've had this conversation with Teresa Walker and people at the facility before. I knew it was a sensitive topic. I'll avoid the topic. We don't have to talk about it.
That's a business decision. I like
people are saying like, how dare you? But I think, it's a sensitive subject. People are getting a little rattled.
I think if we were at a bar, I would probably be kind of like these.
Hey, that's fine. I told you, you're not ready for the conversation. You're not ready.
I'm ready for. I'll have it.
I have numbers to back it up, but I don't think anybody's ready.
One playoff win, the only number I need.
Yeah, we'll move on to the age game here. Age game to close the show, and all of our end of show subjects, our topics here, games are brought to you by Wilson County Hyundai. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Wilson County Hyundai is the place to go for your new ride. Get 0% APR for 48 months on Santa Fe Sonatas and Tucsons. Payne Boner and his team at Wilson County Hyundai happy to guide you through the financing and car buying process. WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jack, it is the age game. So are you familiar with the age game?
I've never been on the guessing end, so I'm excited about this.
So basically what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you anybody, a celebrity that you are familiar with, a celebrity that the chat is familiar with. We are going to lay it out, and you just have to tell me, how old are they? It's very simple and yet so hard at the same time, because we do have this leaderboard. We do have these winners. And you see who is that right above the trophy here? That's me. I tried it one time, got a quick win. Brock, John, Anthony Malley are two-time winners. Some other people that have pulled off a win one time. Zach will add whoever wins to the leaderboard. Everybody wants to get on the leaderboard, and how you do that is you are the first person to guess it correctly. So
it's a good leaderboard, by the way. Some chat all-stars in there.
There is. You hide the chat. You cannot look at the chat. You cannot use their help whatsoever. And whoever is first in the chat on the age game with the correct year will get on the leaderboard. We are running out of space, as Ira Hoshi points out, but I'm sure Zach can change it. All right. What was last week, Jack Gentry?
It was July 4th week, Sam.
It was July 4th. Do you know what happened on July 4th?
America's birthday was celebrated. Steve McNair, RIP, his death date. We'll always remember number 9, even if Sam slanders him by throwing him in the same conversation as Dak Prescott. We'll forgive him for that. He knows not what he says. But what else? July 4th, hot dog eating, Joey Chestnut, not invited.
I'm gonna need to see hands. By the way, it's kind of a staple here. I need to see hands. Hands.
You gonna read me my Miranda?
I'm just saying. We got to see hands. Chad will appreciate it at least. All right. Joey's hot dog eating competition, America's birthday, Independence Day, Declaration of Independence was signed, 1776, July 4th, 1776. Declaration of Independence. Oh, you mean that thing that Benjamin Gates stole? That thing that we squeezed the lemon juice on in one of the greatest movies ever. One of my favorite.
You're not giving me Nick Cage, are you?
How old is Nicolas Cage? Jack Gentry and the chat. How old is Nicolas Cage? Benjamin Gates himself.
That is such a great question. Oh, how old is Nicolas Cage?
How old is Nicolas Cage?
Like, even when he was young, he looked old, I can't.
That is true.
I'm moving past 50.
Try and think of, what year do you think National Treasure came out? We'll start with that.
National Treasure, when that came out? Shoot.
I'm not going to tell you the answer right away because it might give away the age thing. But
I feel like that was like an 06 movie-ish.
Okay.
So
use that, if that's what you think. Whatever.
How old was he in that movie? It's like Nick Cage, he'll look the same from like 30 to 50. I feel like he did look the same from 30 to 50.
Sam says, trick question, Nicolas Cage does not age, which
right? he was born like 38 years old. Okay, I'm going to go with, I think he's 61 years old.
All right, 61 is the guess. Anthony said 54. That is incorrect. Jeff said 57. That is incorrect. American Toff said 64. Incorrect. Eric said 66. That is incorrect. We got 56 from Eric. A lot of 56, a lot of 64. Lou Man said 59, which is wrong. Brandon said 62, which is wrong.
I feel like I gotta be close.
53 from Burning Devil is wrong. Chris said 63, 66, 67, all wrong. Billy Jones said 60.
Come on, Billy. Me and you, baby.
That is wrong. But
dang.
Early on, in fact, the third comment, 60 years old from Lucas Burks is the correct answer. Lucas becomes a two-time champion. Lucas is a two-time champ. David Brown was right behind him. So was Shrike 113. Titans Kyle was right there. Ray Skull was right there. A lot of people were close. But it is, in fact, Lucas Burks, who will become a two-time champion for 60-year-old Nicolas Cage.
That hurts so bad, Sam.
Guys, I'm seeing people saying, dude, mine was above his. Hey, I got to go based on what I'm seeing here on my end. Jack, you can confirm for me if you swipe up here. Lucas Burks, it was Anthony, came in with the first guess at 54, then Jeff at 57, and then Lucas at 60. That was the order that I had him on. So
I'm staying out of that.
Hey,
but
take it up.
Listen,
take it up with the services of your internet. I don't know.
Wow, Nick Cage, Stan, that's a great question. Truly an ageless wonder, if you will.
That's kind of what I thought too. I thought of July 4th. I thought of Nicolas Cage. One of my favorite movies. I love National Treasure. Great movie. And Nicolas Cage, I was like, he looks the exact same as he does when that movie was filmed, which was 2004, by the way. So he was 40 years old when he made that movie. Has not aged a bit in 20 years. So,
dang. Man, I'm hungry for the next one.
David Brown.
I gotta get mine.
One of my favorite comments, David Brown's, is always a bridesmaid. He's always never quite the bride. Keep toughing it out. Next Monday maybe is the Monday that you get on the leaderboard. Lucas Burks will become a two-time champion. That's all we got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow for another great show here on A to Z Sports. I believe, I don't know who's actually even doing the show tomorrow. Hopefully Austin Stanley is back in the saddle. And, you can tell him how close you came to getting on the age game leaderboard. Thank you guys. As always, don't forget to check out A2ZSports.com for all the written Titans content and Titans social media content on A to Z Sports, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Till next time. Peace out. We'll see you later.
Tighten Up Pod out now.